motion, so they can see things moving really easily, especially that's why they're startled so easily. And for them, they don't just see in black and white, it's basically just blobs and shapes that they see. They can't really distinguish what's what or who's
Yeah, because I look cloudy.
What does he want now?
He wants
still
more
just looking for
food.
food, yeah.
Oh.
But
He's like, where's the bowl?
Let me try this again.
You want to try a piece of veggie now? He's like, no, I don't want that.
No. Okay.
You're just a little beggar, aren't you? Aren't you?
Alright, buddy, I'm a sucker. And he knows it too. He knows if
I follow you on social media. See how you're
Awesome.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you
I
so much.
recognize you, Yeah.
You're
We live in Taft, Tennessee. We're quite a ways away from here, but
Well-
I saw your social media. I'm a sloth fan.
Thank you
I
so
love
much
sloths.
for visiting.
And it's my birthday. so
Happy birthday.
Yeah. So we came to see you guys.
Flash is pretty cool. Michaela, your next is here.
You gotta go.
Do we?
Yeah,
we
it's right
don't
at-
see the other two?
Yeah, it's
No?
right at about time. So what
Okay.
you guys have booked for is just the Sloth encounter to
Okay.
see Flash.
Okay.
But if you wanted to upgrade to the VIP, you could actually get hold Zoe for 30 minutes. I'll have to go look at the chart and see how much it is to upgrade for it. But if that's something you guys are interested in, then you just switch over. You go with Zoe for the next 30 minutes, and the next people will see Flash.
Oh, I see.
Is that something that you guys might be interested in doing?
I don't know. It's up to you, honey.
No, you decide.
Because with Zoe, you actually get to hold her, so it's
Okay.
very different from the experience with
Yeah.
Flash. She'll sit down and she'll sit in your lap, and sometimes if she's hungry, you'll feed her some, and she is a lot more enthusiastic about those sticks than Flash is. And then if she gets her belly full, sometimes you get some really good snuggles in. But I can double check. I'll put my head out and see.
Check
Yeah.
and
See what the price would be for that. I'm not sure how much it is to upgrade.
If you go the other way, I'll take a picture. Smile. Will you do one more and make sure you got a big one? Make sure I don't look different like I usually do in pictures.
Good.
Do I look okay?
Yeah.
Did you get him too?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, do another one. Hi, buddy. You're so cute. Alright. Want to get a close-up of his face? He's so cute.
Okay, so to upgrade for the VIP, it's $99.99 per person. So it's totally up to you guys, but if you'd
I
like to,
think
you can have
I'm okay,
it.
but it's up to you.
Yeah,
It's up
that's
to
fine.
you,
No,
honey.
you decide. I know. We did it in Roatan
Mhm.
that night. We were sitting with our girls. She was crying. She was
Oh.
so
It's the
happy.
best thing. They're like, even over
Yeah.
a burst, Mom. I'm like, yes.
How long did you actually hold them?
Long time. They just kind of climb on us. They
Yeah.
yeah.
It
There's
was-
monkeys and sloths.
And
Birds.
yeah,
They're,
toucans too.
Yeah.
Were those the sloths that they had in the rescue, or?
In the rescue,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you're done now. We gotta go. We gotta go, Hanson. Thank you for letting us feed you breakfast. So cute.
If you want me to take a picture of you guys both standing up there next to
Sure.
you, I
Hey, buddy. Oh, he's like, thank you so
can. You're very
much.
welcome.
Do we get to walk around the farm and everything?
So due
or-
to insurance purposes and everything, won't be able to. It's not like a zoo where you can just
Okay.
see everything. Everything that you do has to be booked.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so, yeah. But if you're interested while you're here, if there's anything else, I think that she should just be about done with her monkey encounter out there. But if you want to talk to Donna
Okay.
about possibly booking on something else today, sometimes there's like last minute, same day bookings that she can do.
Okay.
You won't see it online. We won't let you book it online, but if you talk to her, she might be able to see if there's anything extra.
Okay. You came for this guy. But
Yeah.
I know. He's
Yeah.
so pretty. Oh, I love him.
The farm tour is always a really good option. You get to actually see all of the animals on the farm. You start up at the petting zoo and you get to see at least one of every kind. And it's like I said, it's not like a zoo, so everything that you do is hands-on. You actually get to hold them and feed them and everything.
Oh, so cool. He's so cute. Oh my gosh. I with your camera. This is he likes you. He's like, I like that you fed me. All right, baby, we gotta go.
Okay.
We'll head out this way, but if you guys, like I said, we do have an availability for the VIP if you're interested in that. And it'd be, if you wanted to do it, I'd have to know now, that way you go in right with
Okay.
Zoe.
Okay.
But it's totally up to you
It's
guys.
up to you.
It's up to you. We travel a long way, but it's up to you.
You guys just wanna stand up? I know we're starting a few minutes late, but we'll go over a few minutes too. Flash is already down this morning and ready for us. Hey, bud. He has turned his nose up at all of these veggies, and so we've been giving him rice here. This rice mixture is his absolute favorite, and he knows that if he holds out long enough on the other
He'll
ones,
get
that he
it.
gets it. So, we'll see if we can entice him to come back over here. Hey, bud. They do have really poor eyesight, but their sense of smell is really good, and hearing, and so he knew as soon as I opened up that fridge over there that I was getting out this rice a minute ago. And he does smell it, and he knows that that's what he's getting, so especially if we break out the rice, then he's not interested in anything else. He's like, nope, I know you've got the good stuff out. Come on, bud. Come this way. But this is Flash. He is our two-toed Linnaeus sloth. Of the two-toed variety, there's Linnaeus and there's Hoffman. The Hoffman sloths, they tend to be like more of a like a blonde color, and their hair gets to be a little bit longer. But there's not really that many differences between the two. We've just got the Linnaeus here, where they're darker on the head like that, and then that cream color. If you guys want to hold this ball here for him, you can get up real close to him and everything, you can see him. Those make for some pretty good pictures too. But Flash is almost 7 years old, and when we first got him, he was already 3. And when we got him, he came from a facility that was basically just observation beforehand, and so he was never really interacted with like this, was never ever this close to anybody, was never hand-fed or anything like this. And so you can actually, it's to the point now where you can give him real nice slow pets down his back, and he's completely fine with that. But that didn't happen overnight. It took about 2 years of John really working with him, the owner, to get him to this point. And they are very routine animals, and so he started to establish his own routine, where around 9:30, every morning we'd start chopping up his veggies here in the kitchen, and his enclosure is just behind that door, and it goes up 20 feet. And he'd be up at the top of that 20-foot enclosure, and as soon as he started hearing us chopping up veggies, he'd slowly start making his way down, because he knew that we'd be coming in there shortly after to give him his breakfast. And if he wasn't down, then we'd just put it in his bowl, and if he was already on his way down, we'd like hand feed him some of it. And these were in his not as picky days, where he would actually eat these sticks of sweet potatoes, green beans, zucchini, stuff like that. And you know, now he's a little bit more spoiled. But
Smart boy.
it started out with that, and then it slowly got to the point where he's very impatient, and if he knows that we have rice or knows that we have something that he wants and he's not getting it right away, he starts reaching out and going like this, and if he's on the other side of that door, he really starts banging on that door, just going, tap, tap.
So how much does
Trying
he eat of it a day?
He would eat that rice like, he would eat a lot of that rice, so we do have to limit how much of the rice he gets, because he would stuff himself on it, but on average, they eat about 10% of their body weight every day. And that does vary depending on the time of week it is. They only go to the bathroom once a week, and so right before they go to the bathroom, they've really built up a lot, and they're not eating as much, but then right afterwards, they expel about a third of their entire body weight when they go to the bathroom. So right afterwards, they're pretty ravishly hungry and will eat a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So just kind of depends on the time of week, but on average about 10%, we averaged it all together. But it started being routine for him that, you know, he'd already be down waiting on us for when he'd hear us chopping up his veggies. So that's when we made this branch out here, was for him to actually have somewhere else to hang out while he's waiting for us to finish. And so he actually will hook onto that door frame and bring himself out here by himself. We don't pick Flash up. We've never held Flash. He's never had that type of experience, and so he will, if he ever does, that will be completely up to him. Now you guys have booked the VIP, so you'll actually get to hold Zoe after this. And she was raised in a completely different way than Flash was. She was raised from day one around people, right next to people all the time. And then before she was even a week old, she was already being held. And so it was a very slow process getting used to it, but that conditioning every day for just a little bit got her to the point where she does genuinely enjoy it. Yeah, just a little bit more.
Oh, that's all right. This is her birthday present.
Oh, yeah?
Happy
It's
birthday.
lower.
You're doing it too, then.
I'm here for
Eating a
pictures.
whole bowl.
And then if you wanted to hand feed him, it's a pretty cool experience. You just put just a little bit of your hand like that and then have it flat out. You'll have to get him to lower back down again because it's kind of difficult for him to eat when he's up in that position.
Yeah.
But if you just have the bowl close to him, bring him down, and then you can have some put into your hands. And he'll stay down there if you wanted to. I know it's terrible to have to take that bowl away right after you've got him to come down, but if you want to hand feed him, you can.
Yeah, he seems gentle. Oh, you don't want to let it go.
He says no. I told you he gets impatient, holding on to it there with his claw.
No, I'll have this when you're done with that.
Where are you guys from?
Knoxville.
Oh yeah, not too far.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear about us?
Online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, TikTok did.
Actually, honestly, I just happened upon that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just a random, like, ooh, that is not far from us.
Yeah. How long ago did you guys
Did
have to book
that
it?
increase interest
Oh,
after
yeah.
the, yeah.
Couple months ago.
Yeah.
It took we had to find a weekend that was available.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in the summertime, we stay pretty much fully booked up for our sloths.
How many do you do a day?
So that's the thing, for each individual sloth, they don't encounter for more than 2 hours a day total. And it's that's if they are fully booked.
I figured.
And for Flash, he never encounters for more than an hour a day. His routine is that first thing in the morning, we know he's gonna be coming down. And that's the only time we can guarantee that he's gonna be coming down. The rest of the day, he comes and goes as he pleases, and sometimes if he gets hungry throughout the day, he'll start kind of pecking at the door frame, and we'll let him back out, and we'll let him have some treats. But for the most part, he's only routine, should be, routine is for first thing in the morning.
All right, guys.
Was that a part of this?
Yes. Yeah, we've got a lot of different things
Picked it
here.
up like a
Take a ball.
ball. It's like, I think that was an animal.
Yep. He's part of the farm tour.
How long you worked here?
I've been here for about 3 months.
Okay.
My end goal is to become a veterinarian, and so I'm hoping that with the title of sloth keeper on my application.
That would certainly stand out from other applicants, I imagine.
I had applied last year before this experience and didn't get accepted. And, you know, vet school is really competitive. There's just as many applicants as medical school, but not near as many schools.
It's
So
harder.
it's
I think it's harder to get in.
Yeah.
Do you hope to work with exotics?
My passion is really for large animal, like livestock and things like that. But it has been a really cool experience though to work here with these guys. So that you get to see every day.
Right.
It gives you a very experience and appreciation for animals.
You applied to any schools in particular, or just?
My dream is to get into UT. That's where I did my undergraduate at. But this time I'll be applying to UT, LMU, probably UGA and Auburn. Just see.
Kind of still southern region.
Yeah. I'd really like to stay, you know, closer to home. And there would be like NC State. I really wanted to apply there, but some places require that you have a microbiome, and I didn't take that in undergraduate. So it'll just depend if I get anywhere this time. If not, then I can, I'll just go back and just take a micro class. Where are you going,
Does
buddy?
UT take a year?
I think last year it was, there's a set amount, all of the statistics start to blend together, but I think it was like 170 that they take per class. and only like 50 in state. So I did get an interview with UT, so I was really stoked about that, but didn't get accepted. So I knew that I had a lot of large and small animals, but not really a lot of exotic. So just kind of filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what's your name?
Michaela.
Michaela.
Buddy, did you get full?
You got a mess on your face.
Yeah. And he hates for it to be clean, so he's gonna
Yeah,
get it
it's
off
like,
on his
you
own
really want to wipe
time.
it off?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And sloths are the only animal. Huh?
Did you touch it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've been down to Costa Rica, so sloth. It's like they're bristly or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, the sloths that we have here, all of our sloths have been born and raised in captivity and don't know any, how they would survive in the wild if they were to be put out there. And so they have the ability, but they have not ever had the chance to grow any of that moss or algae and stuff like that on their backs. And so that really aids in the bristliness of their coat in the wild. They'll start to form a various different variety of moss and algae and fungus and bacteria all throughout their fur that helps them to not only be camouflaged into the canopy of the rainforest, but to also aid in the symbiotic relationship that they have with moths that live throughout their fur. And it's really important for a wild sloth that they keep those moths on them because that's how they get the bacteria to be able to digest their food. And so in the wild, that bacteria is really sensitive to temperature changes, and temperature is always fluctuating in the rainforest. It just depends on the time of year and time of day. But if it drops much below like 75 degrees, that bacteria will be wiped out. And for a wild sloth, if it didn't have any of those moths, there wouldn't be a way to replenish that bacteria. And so it's really important that that whole ecosystem that they have on their backs is left alone and never messed with and never touched, because even just something as simple as just petting that sloth a few times could be enough to displace all of that, moss and algae and the way that all of that works together. And it could be really detrimental for that sloth. And that's why the Conservancy Agency has recently been doing a really good job of shutting down a lot of the organizations that are actually allowing people to hold the sloths in Costa Rica and Guatemala like that, because all of those sloths have been taken out of the rainforest, held, and sometimes are put back, but it's enough to mess up that ecosystem where that sloth really has a hard time thriving after that. So that's why all of our sloths here that we handle have been born and raised in captivity, and they still use that same bacteria to digest their food, but we keep them in a controlled environment all day, every day, and so it's never has the ability to drop much below 75, because if it did, that bacteria would be wiped out, and there's nothing we could really do about it. And so that's why we always tell people that owning a sloth as a pet is a terrible idea because of how sensitive everything is. And the sloths that we have here are not pets, they are ambassador animals. So they serve to be education for the public. We have all of the same licenses and accreditations and everything as a zoo, but we're very unlike a zoo in the fact that you do get to interact with all of the animals and handle all of them and learn about them kind of more one-on-one.
Yeah.
So that's why all of our encounters are booked. You can't just show up to the gates and just get in any time. So you do have to schedule all of it. I saw that. I don't know where it came from. Lucky quarter.
Oh, flashes pop.
Yeah, flashes.
Yeah.
Drop the change.
They live a long time, don't they?
In the wild, we're not sure exactly how long a sloth can live in the wild, because there's not been any scientist that has been able to track one singular sloth from birth until geriatrics. They're pretty difficult to track in the wild because their head's the same size as their necks, so they can get a tracking collar off pretty easily. And a lot of different things happen to sloths that alter, that aren't natural deaths. So if they're like trying to cross a roadway using a telephone line, it's fine as long as they're on one. But as soon as they cross over and complete that circuit, they're electrocuted. A lot of things like that happen to sloths where it's not a natural death, or predation, things like that. We don't take that into consideration. We have to have it be natural. And so for that reason, there's not been any that have tracked that.
I think I read that they can fall from heights and then they don't get hurt.
Yeah, on average, sloths actually fall out of the trees that they're in about once a week. And so you have to be able to withstand a fall.
Tired, right?
Well, that's the thing, is it's not because they get tired and they let go.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of times, since their eyesight is so poor, they'll be going, reaching for the next branch, and they'll grab their own leg and then go tumbling down. Also, a thing that happens quite often is that if there is something that has startled a sloth, like a jaguar or an ocelot, their first line of defense is to just get to the very end of that branch. They want to get away from it and not have to deal with it and hope that it doesn't follow them. But if it does, and there is a sloth and a jaguar that goes out to the end of that branch, it's gonna eventually break or they're gonna slip and fall off. But if that happens for the sloth, it's not a big deal, and it's kind of best case scenario if they both fall, because the sloth's gonna survive it, and the jaguar's probably not. A sloth has a total of 46 ribs, so it's 2 sets of 23. And those ribs are extremely pliable. So when they hit the ground, they kind of fall like a pancake. All 4 legs are straight out, and they fall flat. The rib cage will kind of flex under their weight and then go back to normal. And they also, with all of those ribs, it's kind of like a protective casing for all of their internal organs, so they don't really sustain any type of internal damage. There's a lot of connective tissue that's holding all of their organs right where they're supposed to, so that when he turns upside down like that, they don't all jumble up. And when they hit the ground, they don't like bang up against each other to cause them internal damage. So it works out really well for a sloth. But yeah, they do fall quite often. What do you think, buddy? I'll be able to entice them a little bit more with some of this rice. Come on, bud. May have to get him to come over to your side a bit more, yeah. And like I said, their eyesight is really poor, but their sense of smell is really good. And so he can smell that, and he's like, yep, I'm coming for it. It works in our favor sometimes, because if he is having a lazy morning some mornings where he's not really that hungry, and so he doesn't see the need to come down, if he's up in the top of his enclosure taking a nap and not really wanting to come down for us, all I got to do is go in there with a banana and start to blow it up towards him, and he loves bananas. And so he will come down pretty quickly for one of those. Now we do have to give fruits just in moderation for them, because they are really high in fructose. And if you give a sloth too many fruits at once, it can cause an overgrowth of yeast. And that's really the only main issue that you can run into with a wild sloth as far as health concerns. They don't have any like natural diseases or sicknesses or illnesses like that can wipe out sloths. You know, with pigs, like if one pig gets a specific type of disease, it'll wipe out all the rest of them. There's nothing really like that for sloths. But that overgrowth of yeast, if they're like stressed out, or if they get the wrong diet, or too many fruits or something like that, it can cause an overgrowth like that. And they're supposed to only go to the bathroom once a week, and it's going to be a massive amount when they do go. So if that bacteria or that yeast overgrowth starts to get too much, sometimes it can kind of cause some infrequent bathroom habits and stuff like that.
So does Flash have like a day a week? Is it like
His is a little bit more sporadic. He goes typically 7 to 10 days is what we say on average,
so it's
but
not like every Monday we're doing
yeah, well, for Zoe, it is. Now, she gets on a pretty strict schedule. She got off of it last week, but she stays pretty much every Friday evening is when she goes to the bathroom, and the Saturday mornings we come in and there's a big mess. Now, she went the night before last night, so yesterday I had a big mess to clean up. So sometimes she varies just a little bit, but Flash even just a little bit more than that. He goes like every 4 days, sometimes every 5 days, which is normal for him. And as long as we're on a strict schedule where they're keeping it the same about every time, then we're happy. It would be if he just started, he went today and then again tomorrow, and then like 2 or 3 days, and then went again, that we'd start to be concerned. And with the bacteria that they use to digest their food, if that's wiped out, there's nothing we can really do to get that bacteria back up. And so you have to be really careful with the type of antibiotics that you can use for them. And you have to have like a whole network of specialists that know what they're doing with sloths to be able to have communication with them to know what to do if anything were to ever go wrong. And normal, average people don't have that kind of connection with veterinarians and whole specialists like that. And so to own a sloth as a pet is really just, you're already betting on your downfall, because the life expectancy of a sloth that someone just gets a hold of that has never owned a sloth before or doesn't work for a zoo or anything like that is about 2.5 weeks. So a lot of people learn the hard way that it really doesn't work out that well for them, because there's no reputable breeder of sloths in the United States that would sell one of their babies to a member of the general public without any prior knowledge of owning a sloth. And so he came from up north, I believe somewhere towards Michigan, and then we got both Zoe and Dash from a breeder that's been doing it for over 30 years, and he's more in the south. But he's kind of like the main supplier for all of the U.S., for all of the sloths that you actually can handle. that have been, born and raised in the U.S.
Y'all work with the University of Tennessee,
We
like
do.
the vet school pretty heavily,
Yeah.
pretty close.
Yeah, yeah, we have a whole,
They have to be like diagnosed.
yeah. Yeah, and we do have a vet that comes out here for us as well, that's just local, and he, in vet school, they teach you about every type of animal. You specialize in what you want to, and so he didn't specialize as a sloth vet, but he's a veterinarian that has a lot of good connections with a lot of other vets. There's some up in New York, Buffalo, New York, that work directly with sloths every day, and so he has a good relationship with them, where he's always in contact with them and everything, to be able to get the right dosage for things like that. And so Flash, about a month ago, it was time for his yearly blood work and checkup and everything. And so we do have to sedate him for that, to be able to get access to the vein like we need. And after those sedatives, and you would think that he would fall from that branch, but they continue to hang there. Even if a sloth were to pass away holding onto a branch, they would continue to hang on to that branch until something rotted or knocked them off of that branch. And that's because the locking mechanisms they have in their claws are opposite to ours, where this is our relaxed state, not using any energy to have an open hand. But to close my fist and make it a ball, that's difficult. That's using energy to do that. But for them, it's opposite. So clamp down around the branch is actually their relaxed state. So when they pass, they're not all of a sudden going to tense up and let go of that branch, because the open like that is a more stressed state for them. So it was really interesting to see once those sedatives fully kicked in, you could touch him all over the face. He was completely out of it, but his arms were locked out completely in a stiff position like that. And we worked on him hanging there for like 10 minutes, and then finally us just moving his body around was slowly starting to unhook those claws. So we did have to pry his claws up off of the branch to get him off that branch to continue to work on it. So it was really interesting, and I always would tell people that if they were to pass away, they would continue to hang there. But then it was, I believed myself.
You saw it, yeah.
Actually being able to see that. Because, you think after we gave him those sedatives, and you could tell he was starting to kind of get drowsy and look around and us like, what's going on? We were all just kind of standing there on edge.
Ready to catch
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Do they play? Like, do they play with toys? Or
Not
like
really.
enrichment?
There's enrichment in there for them. He has like a rope thing that he can play with and stuff. The only time I've ever seen him use that, the purpose for the rope in there is so he has access to get to his outdoor enclosure. We use it to prop up a stick so that he can get out there, or a branch. But it's, can double as enrichment, but he never really uses it. I did see him one time in there that he had somehow climbed down onto the rope part of it and was like hanging there looking at me like, how am I put myself in this position? And so I told John, and John went in there and stood like right next to him like, hey bud, just, if you need any assistance, like I'm here. If you wanted to climb onto me, because like I said, we've never held Flash.
Yeah.
And so you could tell he was like looking at him and looking back up like, and finally just slowly figured out how to get back up on the branch that he was on. But, for Zoe, you guys will get to hold her and see how much of a different experience it is. To have a sloth that's actually comfortable with being held, there is a lot of conditioning and work and effort and energy that goes into that sloth from a very young age to get into that point.
Sure.
Now, Flash has been born and raised around people his whole life, but has never had the experience of being held. And so if we try to take him down off of that branch and hold him like you guys will with Zoe, it is not going to go the same. It would be essentially the difference between holding a house cat and a feral cat. Even though he's used to people, he lets us pet him, lets us, give him his food and everything, he would not appreciate that type of experience. And it would be the same thing for a wild sloth. They're very gentle, docile, calm animals as long as they're left alone. But as soon as you try to interact with one of those and take them down out of that tree for the first time, it's not going to go very well. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, I've held a sloth down in Costa Rica. I got to actually hold one and interact with one. And a lot of times, unfortunately, that's because those sloths have been used repeatedly, day in and day out, over and over and over again, that they're so run down that they just can't really fight back anymore. And I talked about how sensitive their ecosystems are that they have on their backs, and how important that relationship is with those moths for them. And once it's destroyed and that bacteria is slowly deteriorating, it's just a matter of time before that sloth sticks are very numbered. And so that's really why we offer these type of encounters, is to be able to just educate the public and do the lives, and for people that aren't necessarily able to come out and actually do the experience, to still be able to hear about the information. Because obviously, if you knew what was going in, what was happening to those sloths and why they were actually docile animals, you wouldn't support that. But a lot of people don't. They're not, people down there are just trying to make, that's their way of life. They're just trying to make money by doing that. and they're not actually looking out for the well-being of the animals. And the people that are holding them aren't putting too much thought into it. But if they knew, obviously they wouldn't support that. So that's what kind of her whole goal is to just be able to educate people enough about it. I know he's getting pretty boring here, so I think we'll probably just transfer over on to Zoe now. But at the end, once we finish up with Zoe, I'll actually open up his enclosure and we can watch how he goes back in there. Because it's really cool to watch how quickly he can actually move if he's on a mission. And he likes to get up to his hammock up in there. And he can actually move fairly quickly if he has enough gumption behind him. Hey, Zoe. Hey, girl. He's alright if he gets out.
Okay, I was like, he's trying to make an escape.
Yeah, he runs around all the time.
I don't think,
He's the star of
you
the
know,
show.
sadly, I've never seen one not,
Yeah.
like, alive.
That's actually a Brazilian three-banded armadillo, so those are not the same type that you see on the sides of the road.
I've never seen
Yeah.
one like that either.
And his tail is a lot shorter, the ones that you see a lot more common around here now. He, we always say, I don't know what he's found to eat, but we always say on the farm tour that the breeder has told us that he can get to be up to soccer ball size, but he's like a year and a half old. So I don't see that happening,
Yeah.
but we'll see. So if you want to have a seat in the blue chair, what we're going to do is I'll spin her around and her legs will wrap around your torso like she is on mine, and you'll just support her underneath her booty. Now when we pet Zoe, she really only likes down really slow down the middle of her back. Her legs and her sides are really sensitive, so we try to stay away from those areas. But as long as we support her underneath her booty, and if you have her up higher on your torso like this, she's more likely to wrap around your arms. Whereas if she's lower down in your lap, she's probably going to curl up into a little ball. So it's up to you, whatever position you want her to be in. So she'll wrap around you first, and then you can support underneath her booty. There you go. Baku's probably going to dig around at your ankles, but I promise he doesn't bite. He just digs. He's an insectivore, and if he starts to be annoying, I can put it back up. But his nose actually sticks out a lot longer than his mouth is, so it's really difficult for him to bite. He uses that little nose to stick down into the ground to get bugs and stuff. But he, for whatever reason, thinks people have bugs in their socks. I don't think he's ever actually found one, but he still tries his darndest to find something.
One day.
Yeah. Now there was a girl a month or two ago that I was telling her that I don't think that he's ever actually found any bugs in anybody's socks, and so I don't know why he's digging around so much. And there was a little baggie here full of mealworms, like the dried mealworms, and she was like, "Well, are those his?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I put one in my sock?" And I'm like, "I mean, if you want." And so she left it like sticking out the edge of her sock, and it made his entire week. Yeah. But you're very distracting.
That was different.
Look at him towards the end, but I know he can be very distracting when you're trying to snuggle a sloth.
How old is that?
Zoe is 17 months old. So once she turned a year old is when she came down here from the main house. A lot of her baby animals or young animals, don't let her nibble or anything. Sometimes she starts to smell sweat or something like that.
And my dog does this.
I don't want to get her too distracted on food, but she might be looking for some food.
She's heavier than I expected.
And right now
How
it's
much does
actually,
she weigh?
I'm not sure how much she weighs right now. I weighed her the other day, like 2 or 3 days before she went to the bathroom, and she was 17 pounds. But like I said, they gain and gain and gain. Sometimes she gets exploratory, and so she wants to lean back, and it's fine. But if you wanted to sit in the blue chair, you can actually feed her some of these veggies if you want to. Or the white chair, I mean. Just break some of these up here.
Armadillo is an insectivore, and he eats toothworm, mealworm, hornworm, blackworm, and black soldier fly larvae, and fly fever. Yeah, he only.
She's a lot less picky than Flash is.
Also, you can live on that. But
You might can see when she opens up her mouth like that, she doesn't have any teeth there in the very front.
Yeah.
The first teeth that they come to are 4 really sharp canines. And so a wild sloth would definitely use those if they wanted to, as far as if they were threatened or something was after them.
Because he's a tree climbing animal, just like the koala bunny that you saw.
What odd creatures.
Yeah. There is nothing like a sloth that I can compare them to. Someone asked me yesterday what their evolutionary process was, like what they were so close to and everything, and I told them that sloths are the closest thing that they're related to here. We like to think that, the Lord created wolves, and then from there they, bred in different lineages and everything, divided, and now we have dogs. But there were still, we had the giant ground sloth that we still have evidence of and everything that did go extinct in recent years. But sloths still came from sloths, and so that's always what we tell people. There's a lot of other animals that are closely related and everything, but I do believe that no, it didn't just take two of sloths that probably looked a lot different than Zoe and Flash, but
Yeah.
they have slowly come to what they are now. That's his way of saying, open the door.
Yeah.
You got just a little bit longer, buddy. You guys are fun. Sometimes he gets jealous after he realizes that we're feeding Zoe, and he'll extend all the way down and start like clawing at you like this, like, buddy? A lot of people get nervous when he's up right above them because they think that he might use the bathroom or something.
Oh.
But like I said, they only go to the bathroom once a week. They get the base to do so. And you can see the size difference too of the claws. Those claws do continuously grow throughout their life. So with their eyes, they do have a condition that's called broad monochromacy, and that means that they only have broad cells in their eyes and no cone cells. So we have cone cells in the back of our eyes that allows us to see color, but since they lack those cells, they are colorblind. And then what they do see, the broad cells pick up motion. So motion for them is a lot more enhanced than it is for us, which is why they can be so easily startled and why they see things a lot better if it's moving. For her, if she was to look at me and I weren't saying anything, she wouldn't know who I am. But she relates the figure that I am with my voice. And so she knows my voice and what I sound like and everything. Now I did say that sloths are very routine animals, and that this position that he puts himself into to scratch his belly is what he does every time. And he only will ever scratch himself on that side of the branch. He has never ever have I ever seen him scratch himself on the other side of this branch. He would be in the middle of like eating a bowl of rice, which you may have to loosen up just a little bit with your left arm. Sometimes being restricted around their torso like that, they're not really fans of. He could be eating a bowl of rice over here, like really into it, and then stop mid-bowl, go to the end of that branch, scratch himself, and then come back. He has never scratched himself over here on this side. So it's really funny to watch the little quirks that they have. They do all have personalities like dogs do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
And like dogs, they do kind of pick their people too. There's a certain person or two that they really cling to and that they, favor the most. And that person for Flash is John, the owner. And that person for Zoe is Donna, his wife. And so when they first got Flash 3 years ago, a little over 3 now, there were 3 employees, 2 of which being John and Donna, the owners. So we have grown substantially since then. Even just in the past year and a half, we've grown a lot. And now we have 21 employees. And so it has flourished really quickly. But back then, John was Flash's primary caregiver. He was the one in there all the time, all day, every day, interacting with him, talking to him, just getting used to, his routine. And he's the one that established that routine with Flash. And so every morning he'd go in there and go, "Hey, Flash," and his tone of voice real deep like that. And then come in here and start chopping up his veggies, and he'd come down for his breakfast. So we try to stick to that as closely as we can because they are very routine animals. And then for Zoe, she was our second sloth that we got, but she was our first baby sloth and our first holding sloth. And so she wanted to be held all the time. To become an ambassador sloth, which is what she is, they have to meet two requirements. They have to genuinely enjoy and actively seek out human interaction. She does both of those. And so, like I said, she stayed at the main house for the first year of her life. And Donna held her all the time because how are you going to say no to a little baby sloth? It's
Right.
like, meh, meh, and reaching up to you. They do make little noises like that. Now, their arms are really sensitive, and so try to not hold on to their arms or anything.
I'll figure it
And so Donna held her all the time, and she's up at the house all the time doing all the virtual sides of things, paperwork, online, on the computer and everything. And she answers all the phone calls, and so Zoe really got to know her voice. And because of that, Donna can't really come down here and do encounters with Zoe like this anymore, because if she does, Zoe's just looking for her the whole time. She can care less about who the person that is holding her is. Sometimes she gets really obsessed with that little pocket there. I think somebody has spilled a little bit of a drink or something in there at some point, and she really goes after that pocket.
I don't think I'm got an itch.
She may still be looking for those snacks though. She gets really demanding with her food. She says, "You want to?" Oh. Do you guys have any encounters after this, or is it just the sloths?
Just sloths.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What
I
else?
had to look at
What
wallabies.
else do you want to do encounters? I saw the monkey out
Yeah,
there.
we do the monkey encounter, which that's fairly new, and then we're still working all of the kinks out with that one because he is very playful, but he really clings onto men a lot more, especially men with ball caps and beards. And there was two ladies out there earlier trying to do an encounter with him, and he was not wanting anything to do with them, and so I think they ended up going
So
over.
maybe if you're a lady with a ball cap, you have a
Now,
chance.
you do. So there's Emma, one of the employees, really wanted Georgie to like her. And if he can pick up on that, if he knows that you're really into him and that you really want him to like you, he could care less. I mean, he just does not want anything to do with you. But if you're a guy, most of the time guys are just kind of like, a monkey, whatever. He like clings on to you. I mean, he cannot get enough. And so it's really funny. It's unlike any other animal that I could think of. But with Emma, she really wanted Georgie to like her, and Georgie was just not having any of it until the other day on lunch. She was sitting up there and she put a ball cap on, and Georgie walked by and actually went and interacted with her for the first time that he ever has. So it's really cool.
Damn.
Oh yeah, she'll eat that whole bowl. And like I said, she did just go to the bathroom, not last night, but the night before. So she's,
Probably hungry.
she's still making up for lost weight. And you said that she's heavy. This is like the lightest that she ever is. Well, yesterday was, but
Yeah.
so she does get to be. I think the heaviest that I went out. Granted, I don't know if the scale was kind of being weird, but it said 22 pounds is her heaviest. So right now, I'm probably guessing she's about 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how many sloth handlers do you all have?
Just
You?
one.
Just
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I do all of the sloth encounters. There's not really, the only time that they ever really overlap just a little bit is in the morning. So you guys booked the VIP, the people before you just did the sloth encounter with Flash. But if they did the VIP, they would have been spending 30 minutes with Zoe right after Flash, and then we would have traded out. So that's the only time that it ever really overlaps, and Kevin will help fill in for that. But he's supposed to just be our social media guy.
How much time do we have?
It's 11:12 right now, so usually around like 11:15-ish, we could switch over. That'll be like halftime.
Okay.
And then
That's what
that way you
sure
get to about
that's how to hold it.
10:15. Yeah. That's totally up to you guys. I know sometimes one person wants to hold for a little bit longer than the other. That's totally fine, whatever you guys want to do. But as long as somebody has about 10 minutes, that's usually about the time that it takes her to fully get comfortable with the person. So we can switch as late as 11:20. That's so hard. That's so much work. But like I was mentioning, Zoe did go through a lot of conditioning when she was really young to get her to this point. And so in that program that she was born into, the mothers were actually clicker trained to know that when they heard that clicker sound and they had a baby, that the mother was going to get a little treat, and then that baby was going to be borrowed for just like 10 or 15 seconds while still standing right next to mom. And so the mom was never stressed out, therefore baby's never stressed out. And it's always a positive interaction that that baby has with people.
Oh, you're not it. Got it. So,
And so that'll
The
be
blank
done.
stare is
Yeah.
kind of like.
I know. I really wish that I could like hear their train of thought.
Yeah.
But they're literally they do not look like there's any thoughts behind their eyes ever. At any
Yeah, on the
point in time.
intelligence level, are they considered intelligent?
Yeah, I mean, they're not as dumb as a lot of people think.
It's probably hard to measure it with them.
Yeah, they're definitely not like they, she was trained when she was a baby to know that a little tap tap on her foot meant to loosen up. Because for them, like I said, this is their relaxed state. So sometimes when she's cuddling you up around your shoulders like that, she can start to kind of clamp in because that's just normal for her. And so you tap tap her foot, she's supposed to loosen up. So they do learn things like that. They do know their names, especially when they're babies and they spend a lot of time in a little basket with a towel over top of them because they sleep like that. We could be in the same room as Dash and just talking about him, saying his name, or talking about something else, and then as soon as we start talking about him and saying his name, he'll start to uncover himself and look over the edge of that basket at us like, "You gonna come get me?"
Shake that one quick.
Yeah, the squashers, you can hear them.
Squash, yeah.
Yeah, they go quick, a little
The carrots
softer.
take a little longer to chew
Yeah.
up.
now we're gonna go from the smallest animal on the farm to the biggest animal on the farm.
So yeah, the little fox that y'all have.
Fennec foxes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the fennec fox encounters, and then we have the kangaroo encounters, and the baby kangaroo bottle feeding encounters. But there's a lot of different things that you can book to do. Yeah. And then the farm tour is also a really good option because you get to see at least one of every animal on the farm. And then with that, if you do the farm tour, you get some good discounts on like a camel encounter or a kangaroo encounter. You can add those on afterwards. You get a little bit of discount from it, so it works out really well. But you can actually ride a camel. You can bottle feed one of the baby camels. So we have 4 camels here, 2 adult dromedary camels, 1 baby dromedary, and 1 baby Bactrian camel. So the Bactrian camels are the ones with 2 humps. So there's a lot of different things.
Oh, it looks like they have cataracts.
Slits for pupils.
Yeah, tiny little pinpoint dots for pupils. They do have a really narrow field of vision, so it's essentially like if you were to cup your hands like this and look through it, that's about all they really see. They don't really have any peripheral vision. So that's why, another reason why they can be
Lemurs
so
look like
startled.
they have similar kinds of ones.
Yeah, they kind of do.
They have really nice teeth. They're white.
They get fiber biscuits in the evenings that help that kind of like take off the plaque and stuff like that from similar to like dry dog food kibble. When they crunch through that, it kind of helps to break up the plaque on the teeth.
Yeah, I guess dental care was one of those.
Yeah, they definitely have to be sedated for anything like that.
Yeah. Make sure you keep those chompers intact.
I don't know if I mentioned, but all of their molars are actually all pointed as well, so they fit together perfectly to actually grind up their food rather than chomping it up like we do with our flat molars. And so for that reason, if you were to look at the skull of a sloth or the skeleton of a sloth, you would think that they were like top of the food chain, definitely something that's like ripping other things out of the trees and everything, but to see what they actually are is pretty funny. You may have to show her the bowl to let her know that that's all that there is.
Come see it to believe it. Or sniff it to believe it.
Trust you.
There's a crumb in there.
Trust but verify. Alright.
It's 11:18 now. Do you guys want to switch now, or do you want to hold for a little bit longer? So she'll transfer. I just realized we get ready to transfer over. She's going to give you a last hug.
Keep it. That's alright.
Did you get a picture of her holding up around her neck like that? Those are always make for really good.
Aww, I can feel your.
I know it's so hard to get her back after she's cuddled in like that around your neck. But that for her is her favorite position to be in. That's where she's most comfortable. After she's done eating and she realizes there's nothing else, that's where she likes to be. And she showed us that pretty early on, from when she was really young, when we first got her, that's where her safe space, if there were to be, like if she was kind of thrown up into a little ball or something, and I was to drop something or like playing dish on accident, and a loud noise like that startled her, the first place she goes is up around your shoulders, and it can startle people because they're like, oh, she's coming after me. But that's just where she's most comfortable. She wants to hide her little face right there in the side of your neck and not be able to see anything. I think she just noticed flash.
So she can't see that part.
Mm-hmm.
Do I just
So you won't do, you won't do anything after she realizes that I'm standing here. She'll just hook on to me. Yeah. And that cue word for her means that we're transferring on to somebody else. And so that kind of cues into her that she's supposed to reach up. So same thing, she'll wrap her legs around your torso first, and then you can scoop underneath her booty. And if you have both hands underneath her and scoot her up a little bit higher, she might kind of snuggle into you like that. Around this way. Get him. Snuggled right in. Flash saw some movement because I'm dog food. Or you just want us to open your door back up. That's probably what it is.
Either or, I'd say.
But it's pretty cool to actually watch him go back into his enclosure because, like I said, it's 20 foot. So once he gets to the very top of that, it's pretty cool to watch him go all the way up. And sometimes, depending on the mood that he's in, if we open up his outdoor enclosure, he'll go out there and you can kind of see how he maneuvers to be able to get out there. Even just watching how he hooks onto the door frame to go in there is really cool. A lot of people
I
don't
was
believe
kind of
me.
curious about the transition
Yeah.
through the door frame, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't believe me when I say that he does hook onto the door frame. They think that we have to put him out here, but he does it all by himself.
pulling?
And so when a sloth is first born, they have the ability to actually hold all of their body weight suspended by just one claw holding onto a branch. So comparatively, the grip strength of a sloth is about 2 times stronger than humans, if not 3 times. There's different sources that say different things. For sloths, there's still a lot of conflicting and research that still has yet to be done about sloths. So you have to always like cross-reference everything that you do for research on sloths and everything. Diet being the primary issue of
Contradictions.
yeah. Some people swear by this rice mixture. They say that if you keep sloth on this mixture and leafy greens their whole lives, that they'll live long lives. And others say if you keep them on that mixture and you don't add in veggies and stuff like that, that they're only going to have a life expectancy of about 6 years. So there's conflicting information with both ways. So you have to really cross-reference everything and talk to specialists and talk to different people that have actually done it to see the outcomes. But while we don't know the exact age of a sloth in the wild that can live, in captivity, the oldest sloth that we know of lived to be 54 years old.
Really?
So, yeah, his name was Jan. He lived in a zoo in Germany and actually just passed away last year in August.
That's a lot longer than I would have thought.
Yeah. Now in the wild, that's not typical that they live that long in captivity. Usually it's around 25 to 30 years. And in the wild, we expect it to be even less than that, just due to natural things that happen.
Harder life out there.
Yeah. got her belly full.
Yeah. I feel her feet just kind of
Yeah,
like
sometimes she's like
doing that.
bleeding.
Look, yeah.
Uh-huh. She's comfy. It's funny because sometimes, a lot of times what happens is that it's kind of a relationship like this where it's a man and a wife that come in. The wife's like really into it, really wanting to see the sloths. It's like her thing, and the guy's just like, I'm just here just for her. And usually is that she'll hold for the first half, and it's like, no, I really want you to hold, like you've got to hold for a little bit. And then that guy will hold for like the last 10 minutes or so. But they're just like really stiff and uncomfortable and don't really know how to hold her because, you know, nobody's ever really held a sloth before, but most of the time, if you're like really into sloth, she'll just melt into the lady, and then the guy's like just kind of stiff and doesn't really know what to do. And then you can see Zoe's just like looking around, like looking back at the lady, like, all right, let's go back. So it's funny to see she just melted in. She really feels comfortable. And they do pick up on energies and stuff too, because, you know, really nice, slow pets like that, like I say, to do is what she likes, and that's what she's most comfortable with. But a lot of people get really excited about holding a sloth and then like petting kind of quick or doing like the cat scritches and stuff, and she's like, what is going on? But you can really tell she picks up on people's energy.
Our dog is too, and she's got a lot of energy. So we're used to like having to wrestle her off. So it's kind of hard to like.
Yeah.
Different energy from
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. And, you know, for a lot of animals, like dogs and cats, they like the fingertips, like the slow scritches like that down their back. But for an animal that's a prey animal, that, you know, while they have been born and raised in captivity and have never experienced anything like that, it's still driven hard in their roots that they're supposed to be more alarmed by things like that. Yeah. And even their legs, you know, they're on the underside of that branch where the jaguar or something like that would be on top of the branch. So the first thing that they're going to grab is a leg that's holding on to it. And so for that reason, that's why the legs are so sensitive for them. And the paw pads as well, that leather on the underside is really sensitive too because their eyesight's so poor. They have to be able to figure out what they're grabbing a hold of. So.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Flash doing his acrobatics this morning.
So when you walk in and you realize that you just use the bathroom, is that like it's gonna be
Yes.
one of those days?
Yeah, because like I said, it's a massive amount. It is a huge, it's not just a massive pile, it's a massive puddle.
Yeah.
And so I was watching a video the other day of an organization that had a sloth where her bathroom setup was at the base of the tree. She had like this big dish pan thing, and it, you know, caught everything. I was like, why don't we do that? And that would be so much easier than having to have this whole big puddle dry and like clean it, and you know, it cooks in there for a whole week. So it's not like normal urine smell. It's like really pungent and strong. And so then we've got to air everything out, and I'm like, why don't we just catch it? Like,
John, I have suggestions.
yeah, really.
Do they drink water regularly too?
Not regularly. So in the wild, I mean, they would maybe lap up some of the water that would gather in the leaves that they're eating and stuff like that. We do have water dishes in there for them. Flash hardly ever touches his. It will slowly go down over time just because it evaporates, but he doesn't really do anything with his. Now Zoe, I think sometimes she plays in her water dish because I'll come in the morning and there'll be some like splashed over into what was her food bowl and some's on the floor and it's like a lot lower than it was. So she may drink some of it, but I think she plays in it more than anything. They get all of the requirements that they need for moisture is through the veggies and stuff that they eat. What are you looking at, buddy?
Like opals.
Yeah, just a few more minutes, bud. I know, it's such a rough life. And sloths are unlike any other type of animal where their hair actually parts on their stomach, and it will all come down to their back like that. If you think about a dog that are upright, their hair parts down the middle of their spine and goes down like that, but it's opposite for a sloth. And that each individual hair of a sloth, if you were to look at it under a microscope, has a lot of tiny micro cracks all throughout those hairs. And that's what gives the sloth the ability to form that moss and algae, because after they're rained on so many times and that rainwater will gather on their backs and get stuck in those little cracks, that's what, that over time they'll start to form the moss and algae that they use for camouflage. They still have the ability to form that in captivity. The hairs are the same, but they're not rained on all the time. Anytime it's going to be forecasting for rain, you bring them back in. And if they had the option, obviously they're going to be rather be inside than have to be out, you know, in their outdoor enclosures while it's storming.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that we have to watch is temperature. We only let them go into their outdoor enclosures when it's above like 78 degrees, because if it were to drop below that, that's really when we get into trouble with that bacteria. And I say at least 78, it really goes down to 73 is where it starts to begin to deplenish. But we say 75 is the absolute lowest because it should never get close to that. And that's why we keep it at 78. So the sweet spot for that bacteria is like 77 to like 85 degrees. And so we keep it right there in the middle to where it's always good for that bacteria. But if something were to happen, like somebody left the door cracked overnight in the winter or the fall, and it were to drop in their enclosure, we could come back in and the next morning all of that bacteria would be completely wiped out from that sloth system. There could be efforts that you do to try to get that bacteria growth back up, but there's no form of a synthetic bacteria that even closely replicates that same type. So there's not really a whole lot that you can do for those animals after something like that. So everything has to be really closely monitored, everything double and triple checked, just to ensure that they have, you know, the best chance possible.
They snore. She's asleep.
That is a good
I guess.
question. I've never heard them snore. Now they do make some noises. The most common one is that the females, when they become in heat, they actually will let out a really loud screech that sounds like a D sharp if you're into music, so it's really high pitched. And then she'll periodically let that out, and it'll alert all of the males in the area that she is ready to be bred. And they'll all slowly make their way to her, and it'll just be the first one that gets there will be the lucky winner. Everybody else that kind of shows up late just turns around and goes back. They don't really fight for mates like other animals do. So,
World's worst race.
yeah. Yeah, you can imagine how disappointed you'd be after making that big long trek just to then see that she'd already found somebody and have to turn all the way back.
It's like, who wanted it the worst?
Yeah. They're not very confrontational animals, and so they're not gonna, that other sloth's not gonna continue to go up there and try to fight for her like other animals would. Now, if there was two sloths that met at the tree at the same time to go up to get her, they probably would, you know, battle over that. I have seen videos of sloths fighting like that, but that's been because they've both been there at the same time. But if they've already seen that he's probably already, you know, getting the work done, then he's just gonna turn around and go back. But other noises that they can make is a hiss sound. They can make it kind of hiss like that if they're scared or startled by something, which I did actually hear once from Flash. I was bent over trying to set Zoe in somebody's lap, and Flash was above me there, actually extended down, and I didn't know he had extended down. When I went to race back up, I knocked into him, and in my ear I heard him hiss like that, because all of a sudden something just knocked into him out of nowhere. But he forgave me. And then they can make kind of a whining sound. So the sloths, when they're distressed or are really looking or longing for something, for her, it's if I put her back into her enclosure, back into her little hammock, and I stand there in her room watching her, she will start to climb through the branches at me going, meh, meh, and reaching out, trying to get me to pick her back up, because that's where she wants to be.
Yeah.
And in the evenings when I'm cleaning up her enclosure, I try to time it where she's sleeping, and I'll go in there, because once they wake up, they're really groggy, and they're like trying to figure out what's going on, so I can usually get it done. But if she's awake, and I go in there, and I'm not paying attention to her, she is trying her very darndest to get a hold of me so that she can climb onto me. And I can't turn my back on her, because if I did, she'd be on my back. And so it's really pitiful, but they do kind of make a little whimpering noise like that.
Like a little one of those backpack
Yeah.
things for her just to be able to continue working,
Yeah.
and she can just be there.
And I do with Dash sometimes, because Dash is only like 5.5 pounds, 6 pounds-ish before he goes to the bathroom. And so sometimes if I have him down here in this basket, a lot of times if he's like reaching out of his basket trying to grab a hold of me, I'll just put him on me and continue to work and everything, because his claws, while they're a little bit sharp because he doesn't climb as much, he's a lot lighter than Zoe, and so he can hold on to me, and it's not that big of a deal. But with her, all 15 pounds of her holding on to me is a little bit, yeah. So, but But it is a good idea to make some type of a little sling or pouch or something.
So there's no chance of like her and any mating.
Not with
other
her and
than-
Flash, because
Yeah.
the Flash, we got him from up north, but we don't know his exact lineage. We know who bred him, but we don't know his parents and how far back that goes. Now with Zoe and Dash, we know exactly their lineage from all the way back to where the first sloths that he got to start his breeding program. And so we're not going to breed Zoe and Flash together just because we want to make sure that there was no cross relation in any way. But in the future, if we wanted to, we could breed Zoe and Dash together. So that will be something that will be decided in the future, because we don't have, for right now, we don't have any future plans of breeding. But if we wanted to, we definitely could.
Sure.
But our time is up now with Zoe, and I know we want to watch Flash go back in there, so I'll get her from you, and we'll kind of watch him skedaddle back up.
Alright, so take care, girl. Oh, that was big. Good one. It's good right now.
Their eyes have been closed.
You can kind of watch how I set her back in here into her hammock. You know, we'll push her over here. This camera gets in the way a lot of times.
I'm back. Check yourself out.
And like I said, I have to get out pretty quickly, because otherwise if I stand here, she starts to climb back through the branches at me, trying to get me to pick her back up. So videos are a lot better if you actually step in there and you can watch him come in through the door frame. Well, it's easier to see him coming head on. So you can see when he's on a mission,